and Joss Whedon, an incredible screenwriter, joke writer, and storyteller.
Sorry.
Joke writer and storyteller.
What is brunch?
Storyteller.
Talk about a waste of time. So after being delayed for a year, we finally got to see the Black Widow solo movie. The movie that no one was interested in. Okay, that's a bit harsh. I wouldn't say no one was interested in it. There are plenty of people who would have loved to see a solo Black Widow movie back in 2015-2016. After the Winter Soldier and Age of Ultron, when they finally gave her some backstory and made her somewhat interesting. But the movie is here and it's time to talk about it. So the movie takes place after Civil War, and Natasha is on the run and in hiding. But she gets contacted by her sister and is informed that a dangerous Russian dude that she thought she killed years ago is still alive. And he has even more Black Widows under his control, and they need to find his location, stop him, and set the Black Widows free from their mind control. And in order to accomplish this, she has to reunite with her surrogate family. Oh yeah, and also Taskmaster is there too. So I think the best way to describe this movie is pointless, boring, a waste of time, and late to the party. Right off the bat, the fact that it's a solo movie for a character we know dies a few movies after this takes the weight out of the life-threatening situation she'll be facing, because we know there won't be any real consequences. So when she's flipping a car upside down or falling out of the sky, we know that she'll be okay. So already that's kind of a problem. It reminds me of the bullshit that happens to Gandalf in the Hobbit movies. We know that he's going to be fine, so what's with all the fake danger? They also add backstory and try to give her more character development here, but we already know what happens to her after this movie, and we know how she is and how she acts later on, so it all feels pretty pointless. But you know what? Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh. Let's just ignore the fact that we know that she isn't in any real danger, and we know her fate after this movie. But even by ignoring that, there are other issues. For starters, this is one low-energy action movie. The fight scenes and action scenes are some of the most basic generic shit I've seen in a while. The score doesn't help elevate these scenes either. It's just the same sound of music you hear in nearly every other MCU movie. It also feels like it wants to be a Mission Impossible or Jason Bourne spy movie, but instead it feels like a cheap imitation of those films. The spy/espionage aspect feels underbaked and not as interesting as it probably thinks it is, and the action isn't very creative or thrilling. I can think of like 2 or 3 decent scenes, and the rest feels like they're going through the motions of punches, jumps, and explosions. Just pretty lifeless. I actually found myself getting pretty bored not even an hour in. Yeah, so the fights, stunts, and actions are all pretty standard stuff. Now the cast is fine, the actors did an okay job of what they had, but this movie has some of the most awkward comedy and quips I've seen in a while. For example, Natasha's sister mocks the way she lands and strikes a pose, so she calls her a poser, and she does that throughout the movie as a lame, reoccurring joke. Another thing with the humor is that it's used at inappropriate times, and it removes any emotional weight that a scene might have had. I felt the MCU has had this issue for a while, but here it's pretty egregious. Jeremy Jahns put it best.
The movie also does that thing that frustrates me about MCU movies in general, is the fact that they always deflect with jokes. Jokes are great. Humor is fine. It can actually add to the experience of enjoyment. But when there's clearly a scene that could have benefited for letting the drama marinate and go to the next step, but they don't, they just crack a joke, it's just frustrating.
I like Jeremy, but I'm surprised it took him this long to notice that the MCU does that a lot. The same thing with their action and fight scenes. There has to be a one-liner or quip or joke to release the tension to remind you that, hey, they aren't in any real danger. Although I think it's more noticeable here because the humor is so bland and forced, so it sticks out more. Also, some of the characters just feel wasted. The father is the Red Guardian, who is basically the Russian version of Captain America. He's used here as the comic relief character, and he's basically your drunk annoying uncle. And every emotional scene that he has is bait and switched for a crummy joke. And not to mention, I thought they had a good setup for him to be useful and to get a personal win. You see, he's a super soldier, and he boasts about beating Captain America in a fight, which never actually happened. But you see, Taskmaster in this movie has mimicked the fighting styles of every Avenger, including Captain America. So there's a moment where Red Guardian and Taskmaster come face to face, and in my head I was thinking, okay, here's his chance at redemption, because this is almost like fighting Captain America. But what actually happens is the movie cuts away from the fight, and next time we see him, he's getting his shit kicked in, before getting lucky and locking Taskmaster up. This felt like a wasted opportunity. Same thing with Taskmaster. Here, Taskmaster is just a pawn for the main villain, who is this Russian dude, and it feels similar to how the Mandarin was just a pawn for the actual villain in Iron Man 3. And the twist here is that Taskmaster is the daughter of the Russian dude that Natasha thought she killed years ago when trying to kill the Russian dude. Yeah, I couldn't be bothered to learn their names. And to me personally, this twist doesn't really have any impact, because I have no connection to this chick. We don't really know her, so Natasha is conflicted and wants to help her out, but to me, I just see this twist as a waste of time. Someone actually left a comment on my Instagram post having a much better idea and plan with Taskmaster. Check it out. If I was the writer, I would have made Taskmaster been another girl, indoctrinated into the Red Room. She was just a normal girl who slowly rose through the ranks and eventually became one of the best assassins. She eventually becomes so good that she's made part of the new Taskmaster project, where she is given the suit, becoming the ultimate weapon as she also trains the Red Room. She should have been the main villain behind mind controlling the Red Room. In my opinion, this serves as a cool mirror to Natasha and shows what she could have become if she had not turned the shield. It also links into the comic version where Taskmaster trained the henchmen. Yeah, it sounds like a much more interesting idea. It feels like the movie was trying to take an emotional route by having this big twist, but it just didn't land. Also, even in this movie, the whole mimicking the Avengers fighting style is so underutilized and wasted. But you know what, give us 7 years and I'm pretty certain the MCU will give us the actual Taskmaster. Also, the effects look really cheap in the third act, like you can tell they're on a green screen. It's pretty weird. Let me think of some bright spots. The intro credit sequence was good, showing the training that the Widows go through as well as a somber cover of Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit. I thought it was pretty neat. There were a few action scenes that were kind of cool. Oh yeah, they not only go to Budapest, but they also mention details about that mission a few times in the movie. And what I think is funny is that hearing the small little details about that mission sounds like it could make for a more interesting movie than this one. Like she mentions that her and Bart were hiding in that safe house for 10 days, and her and Bart hid in the subway ventilation system for 2 days, avoiding enemies and whatnot, and Scarlett Johansson's pretty hot. That's really about it. This is a really dry movie. Terrible? No. But bland, forgettable, and mediocre? Yes. This is easily a bottom tier MCU film. It's down there with Thor 2, Iron Man 2 and 3, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Captain Marvel. And after viewing the end credits scene, it almost feels like they made this movie so they can introduce Black Widow's sister so that she can appear in the MCU shows at some point. Other than that, I think this movie was a waste of time and doesn't serve any purpose. And by the way, I'm fine with characters having their own solo adventures and not having to be connected in some way, but I also expect the movie not to be so bland and boring. Honestly, this feels like a cheap imitation of The Winter Soldier. I've also seen people say that this is a good movie to just shut your brain off to and just enjoy as like a dumb action flick, but I personally believe that the action is just too damn boring and dull for me to do that. I mean, I like mindless fun action flicks. Godzilla vs. Kong, fucking amazing movie, because the action is so fun and entertaining. Here, it's not, so I can't exactly do that.
It's boring and dull, I'm yawning.
And the story is not really that interesting and pretty subpar. And the comedy and quips are so awkward and forced. I mean, I guess this movie is serviceable as like background noise, but that's just what I think. And of course, I went ahead and asked you guys what you thought of Black Widow, and I'm seeing a pretty mixed reception on this. I see some people say that it's a pretty standard action flick that's still pretty entertaining, and I see others saying it's possibly one of the worst MCU movies, and I'm seeing people giving out number ratings, and the lowest I've seen so far is a 4 and the highest I've seen is an 8. Although the biggest complaint I have been seeing is the Taskmaster twist. Yeah, basically nobody likes it and they think it's pretty stupid, and it kind of wastes the character, with some saying it's not only as bad as the Mandarin twist in Iron Man 3, but just as bad as what happened to Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine. But anyway, that's gonna do it for the video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, go and drop a like on it. Go ahead and leave a comment and let me know, what do you think of Black Widow? And as a bonus question, which one would you rather watch? Black Widow, Captain Marvel, or Thor the Dark World? Because I think those three are possibly the most bland ones in the whole MCU. So let me know down below. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.
Peter, what is it?
It's MJ. I'm gonna ask her to me.